Councilmember Lee. Councilmember Murphy. Councilmember Rutherford. Councilmember Sepulveda.
Here.
Councilmember Sledge.
Here.
Councilmember Stiles. Anybody else that I didn't hear? All right. Vice Chair Sepulveda, would you mind making this motion that's on the screen if you can see it?
Yes. I make a motion that this committee meeting agenda constitutes essential business of the Metropolitan Council, and that meeting electronically is necessary to protect the health, safety, and welfare of Tennesseans in light of the COVID-19 outbreak.
Second.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. Opposed? Okay. The quorum rules have been waived, so we can proceed with just us. Moving forward, there was conversation among a subcommittee of the executive committee about recommendations for what should be essential and non-essential legislation. The executive committee didn't appear to have any further feedback from it. I think the applicable parts for us to consider when it comes to ordinances and non-memorializing resolutions is this part in bold here in the middle. Does the legislation have a statutory time requirement? Is the legislation time sensitive or required for an existing essential business to continue? Would deferring the legislation cause an undue hardship on critical programs or services? Would deferring the legislation potentially jeopardize funding for Metro government? Have Nashvillians directly affected or impacted by this legislation been able to have input or have access to adequate methods for being engaged in providing input? Would this legislation put Nashvillians at risk of not being socially distant to reduce risk of exposure? And the standard with memorializing congratulatory resolutions that was recommended was that if it's not date specific, it should be deferred. So that being said, can move on to the agenda. RS 2020-286, Alan O'Connell and others request flexibility in rent and mortgage collection in the city of Nashville and supporting the moratorium on evictions and foreclosures to provide housing security in light of the COVID-19 outbreak. We have a letter to approve. Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Thank you. Any discussion? All right, ready to vote. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye. None opposed. So that is 3-0. And it is recommended. RS 2020-289, Bradford commemorates the 50th anniversary of Earth Day. Is Mr. Bradford here? Councilman Bradford?
I am.
Okay, great. Is there a motion on the resolution?
I move this resolution.
Motion.
Second.
Right. Any discussion? All right. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Thank you. Resolution RS 2020-290, O'Connell and Allen, recognizes International Dark Skies Week and declaring April 19th through 26th, 2020 as Dark Skies Week in Nashville and Davidson County. Motion?
Motion.
Second.
All right, we have a letter to approve. Any discussion? All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed?
Aye.
All right. 3-0. All right, that is, we got a late file. An ordinance requiring employees of essential businesses interfacing with the public to wear appropriate face coverings. Are any sponsors of this here?
Mr. Chairman,
Yes.
just letting you know that I'm present.
Oh, good to see you. All right, thank you very much. Were you here for the last vote, Councilman, or did you stop?
Yes, I came in apparently right after all was called.
Okay, great, thank you.
I was here for the vote. Thank you.
Thank you. So we've suspended the rule that requires sponsors of late filed legislation to come before the Rules Committee. But nevertheless, does anybody have any concern with allowing this to go to the floor for consideration?
Chair, I do. This is Councilmember Sledge. In reading through the resolution, you're going to hear Art in the background, by the way. In reading through the resolution, it appears that it doesn't account for the costs that would be incurred for employees to wear these face coverings, unless I've read it inappropriately. And I know that the sponsor may not be here, so I didn't know if there was anybody else on the committee had an opinion about that.
I do. I think if there's something like that that needs to be looked at, I think that that's certainly something that could be done on second reading. My feeling is that this is time sensitive enough that we should allow it to start to be considered in case we're still in the thick of this in the middle of the summer, and then it can be disapproved or amended down the line. But that's a good point, Councilman.
Yeah, well, and to you as well, that's fair. I don't have a problem with it being late filed. I just wanted to make sure we kept that in mind.
Perfect, thank you. Make sure that gets passed along. Okay.
Councilman Rosenberg, I wanted to let you know that I've joined. I was not able to join as a participant at the beginning, and so I know votes have been taken. And so while I was on the call, I was not able to vote for or against. And so I don't know if that obviously will affect the attendance and the vote counts. And so I guess legal will have to sort that out later.
Okay, I've got the attendance updated. The committee votes can be modified before the committee closes. So if you'd like to vote in favor of the memorializing resolutions or against, or if you have an opinion on the late file, please chime in.
We'd have to go back through. At this point, we'll just continue forward, and hopefully in future meetings, we'll have better IT systems.
Okay, on to elections and confirmations. Metropolitan Auditor, 3 candidates were approved by the Metropolitan Nashville Audit Committee in ranked order, speaking to my heart, as follows: Lauren Riley, Paul Morris, and John Valtiera. First, Ms. Riley, are you on the call?
Mr. Chair, this is John Cooper. Those actually really shouldn't be on the Rules Committee agenda, since the Audit Committee makes the recommendation on those.
Okay.
I suspect it's just because they were under the Rules and Confirmations heading on the agenda that they got rolled into the to this committee agenda, but there's no committee report required on these.
Perfect. Okay, thank you, Mr. Cooper. On to the Action Commission.
Chair? Sorry, it's Sandra. It looks like Councilwoman Stiles is on now. I think she was having some trouble.
Okay. Councilwoman Stiles, you here?
Yes, I am. The audio was not working.
Okay, great. So just so you know, we went through already the ordinance that you filed, your late filed ordinance. Councilmember Sledge brought up a concern regarding the content of it, just as far as the cost to employees, but nobody had an objection to it being a late file today.
Okay, thank you, Chair. May I respond to Councilmember Sledge?
Absolutely.
Or no?
Absolutely.
Let me. So, Councilmember Sledge, my intention with this late file, of course, as we know, COVID-19 is extraordinarily contagious, and PPE back order, and there are a variety of ways that employers can provide masks, or employees at this point can get their own mask for free. There are volunteer organizations that are creating masks, But at the end of the day, not wearing a mask as you are interfacing with customers on a daily basis, it's not sound judgment. And I understand the intention to put the onus on employers. They will be the ones that get fined if the employees do not have a mask on. So that is where I'm coming from. I'd like to protect our frontline workers at all costs. And it's been distressing to me to go into grocery stores and see employees walking around with absolutely nothing on. Every single day interfacing is taking a huge risk. So that is my explanation.
Great, thank you. If there's no other discussion, we'll.
Chair, sorry, I put my little hand up thing, but I know we got a long.
I can't. Sorry.
That's okay. That's no problem. I just want to thank that council member for the explanation. I totally agree with the intent of it. The only other thing I was going to ask was actually a point of order. I forget, Chair, on late files, do we have to take a formal vote on them, or do we just?
No, without the rule suspension, normally we would just ask if anybody has a problem with it and move on, unless it's a piece of legislation that would be referred to us.
Okay, all good.
Right.
Thank you, Chair.
Thank you,
Councilmember
Councilmembers. Okay, elections and confirmations. The Action Commission, the reappointment of Dr. Berthina Nabab McKinney for a term expiring February 2nd, 2023. Doctor, are you here?
I am.
Thank you. Would you mind I know this is reappointments, talking a little bit about your experience with the Action Commission and sharing any thoughts you have?
Sure. So I have been on the Action Commission, I think 2 months. This is going, well, actually counting March and April, I guess we're going into 4 months. And so I was able to join them on their planning session for their strategic planning and be involved in that process, as well as go through formal training with the board. So far, I feel like I can make a good contribution to the work that they're doing with the Metro Action Commission. I'm very pleased with what I'm seeing so far with the board and the executive director there, and look forward to continue to serve a term.
Great, thank you. Committee members, anybody have any questions or comments? And this view is not nearly as user-friendly as when you're a participant once you're a host, so I can't see where hands are raised, so please chime in.
No hands are raised, Chair.
No hands, thank you. Okay, in that case, there a motion to approve?
So moved.
Thank you. All in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, 6 in favor, none against. Thank you very much.
Thank you.
On to the Airport Authority, reappointment of Mr. Bill Freeman for a term expiring January 1st, 2024. Mr. Freeman, are you here? See you, but you're muted. Okay, we'll come back to that. Arts Commission, the appointment of Ms. Marianne Bird for a term expiring January 1st, 2024. Ms. Bird?
Yes.
Hi. Would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about your interest on the board?
I'm a lifelong Nashvilleian. Started out in Brentwood, but moved to Nashville about 32 years ago, and was very involved for probably 30 years with Tennessee State Museum, and learned a lot and became fascinated with the arts, particularly in Nashville, and most interested in fabric arts and sculpture, but have become a collector, and I'm looking forward to serving the city.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments for Ms. Bird? Hearing none, is there a motion?
Motion.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Aye.
Aye. Any opposed? Thank you very much. Thanks, Ms. Bird. Right. We have the appointment, Stormwater Management Committee, the appointment of wow. The appointment of Ms. Margaret Littman. You okay, Colby? The appointment of Ms. Margaret Littman for a term expiring October 31st, 2023. Ms. Littman?
Yes.
Hi, would you mind introducing yourself and talking a little bit about the Stormwater Management Committee?
Sure thing. Thanks for asking. I have lived in Nashville for about 13 years. This is my second round living here. And I am particularly interested in water quality and storm water issues. I've served several terms on the board of the Cumberland River Compact and have chaired the dragon boat races. I'm an avid paddleboarder and live on the river. So I'm interested in the ways that water and water management connect in our city. Professionally, I'm a journalist, and I feel like my training as a journalist helps me listen to a lot of points of view, and I like to gather a lot of information. So I feel like this is a good opportunity for me to serve the city using my skills and my interests.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments regarding Ms. Littman's appointment? All right, seeing none, we ready to vote? Is there a motion?
Motion.
Second.
Second.
All in favor?
Aye.
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 All right, all opposed? Any opposed? Great, thank you very much.
Chair Rosenberg, this Bill Freeman. Can you hear me now?
I sure can, thank you. Back to the reappointment of Mr. Freeman for a term expiring January 1st, 2024. Mr. Freeman, would you mind talking a little bit about your experience on the Airport Authority?
Well, I've served for 4 years. I'm an active aviator and plane owner, and been very active on the Airport Authority. Delighted to serve, and delighted to serve another 4 years. We've got $1.5 billion worth of construction and improvements and development going on at the airport, and I think I'm well qualified to help shepherd that through the next few years.
Great, thank you very much. Thrilled to have you. Any questions or comments regarding the Airport Authority appointment? All right, ready to vote? Is there a motion?
So moved.
Second.
Great. All in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you very much.
Thank you, sir.
Zoning Appeals Board, we have the appointment of Mr. Logan Newton for a term expiring February 26, 2023. Mr. Newton will fill the unexpired term of Ms. Cynthia Chappell. Mr. Newton, are you here?
I am here.
Great. Would you mind introducing yourself and talk a little bit about your interest on the board?
Sure, I'd be happy to. I am an architect and associate principal for a firm here in town, and a lifelong Nashvilleian. And I love my community, I love my city, and I wanted to find a way to serve my city. And I was pretty surprised when I looked at the Board of Zoning Appeals. See, there's mostly lawyers. There are no people with a design background or a kind of city planning kind of background. I thought that was kind of a uniquely positioned to fill that role.
Great, thank you. Any questions or comments regarding Mr. Newton's appointment to the BZA? All right, is there a motion?
Motion.
So moved.
Let's entertain motion. Okay, all in favor?
Aye.
Any opposed? Great, thank you very much, Mr. Newton. Is there anything else for the committee to discuss? All right, we're adjourned. Thank you.